This is Wretched Radio with Todd Friel.
Gotta love a sermon that doesn't treat its audience like dum-dums. This is Wretched Radio. Pastor Mike Fabarez, Orange County, California, preaching to his congregation, giving them permission, not a commandment, permission to celebrate Christmas. And he goes about doing it in a very thoughtful way, understanding that people typically have three objections this time of year. Number one, it's a man-made celebration. He knocked that off of the list by showing us that Jesus celebrated at least two man-made parties, Hanukkah and a wedding. It's okay. Not mandated. It's okay. Number two, it's commercial. All of the trappings and the expenses and the travel, it's all permissible. Why? Because he went back to the Festival of Booths and discovered that there was traveling. It was actually commanded. You had to go to Jerusalem. Second, they had succulent food, the good stuff, the party food. There was a celebration. There were trappings, decorations, tree-like decorations, all to state we have permission in the Bible from celebrating the Old Testament Festival of Booths to apply the principles to our New Testament non-biblical Christmas celebration. Smart. Not talking down to people, causing them to think, maybe challenging some of their suppositions. Maybe this is challenging yours. Maybe you have just learned to shun Christmas. Please note, this is not a you-rah-rah, go celebrate Christmas and do it up big and go into debt. Not suggesting that at all. We're talking about the incarnation of Jesus Christ, the biggest miracle ever. The biggest miracle ever. Nothing bigger than this. What I'm trying to say is you're not going to find another creation of the universe. Not as big as this. Wait, what about saving a dead man, bringing him to life, making him born again? Not as big as the incarnation where the infinite got stuffed into a finite body. Biggest miracle ever. And it's okay to celebrate. Because what do we see in the manger? We see the one who owns the cattle on 1,000 hills being put in the trough of cattle. The shame and the humiliation. Why? To bear our shame and humiliation, that it might be forgiven, that it might be cleansed. It's okay to celebrate. That is his point, and he's doing it in a thoughtful way. So let's go back to this Mike Fabarez sermon. Let's go back to the Festival of Booths. What else did they do there? They rejoiced. They had a good time. So maybe if your third objection to not celebrating Christmas has something to do with, I've got the Christmas blues, well, the Festival of Booths has something to say to you. Prepare yourself.
Celebrating is not celebrating when I'm not feeling it, right? So what you got to do is you got to feel it, man. Well, I don't feel it. I don't feel like celebrating. It's my party, and I'll cry if I want to. Remember that old song, Old Timers? Well, here's the thing. It ain't your party. It ain't your party. Well, I'm going to have a Christmas party at my house. It ain't your party. So you can't cry if you want to, and you can't cancel it if you want to, right? This is God's party. You're celebrating something that God has done. And you know what God says about it? Here's a great passage. You might want to turn there. You're not far from it. Deuteronomy 16. Deuteronomy 16. Now, this is going to blow your mind because you think it's bad parenting because you've read Psychology Today. And you've said you can't tell your kid you're going to eat those green beans and you're going to enjoy it because you know they won't enjoy it. I can't command my kids to feel something. Well, God must be a bad parent then because God's saying this. There's a time to rejoice. This is the one festival on God's calendar that he commands them to have joy, to be joyful, and rejoice.
Ask yourself the question, do you suppose anybody during the Festival of Booths, anybody had the blues? Do you think that there was anybody who maybe had lost a loved one recently? Do you think there was anyone who was possibly struggling with financial or health issues? Absolutely. Nevertheless, God says, you're going to celebrate something that I've done. You are going to have joy, whether you feel joyful or not.
You know, the rabbis taught about this Feast of Booths, that you are not to do anything that makes you sad during these 7 days. Nothing. You're to engage in only things that make you glad, nothing that makes you sad. And if you have mourning or grieving to do, here's what the rabbis taught. You're to postpone it during the Feast of Booths. I'm mourning the loss of a loved one in my life. Postpone all that. And now you're supposed to rejoice for 7 days. And then add the 8th day, and we'll have another day there, the extra day at the end. Rejoice. Yourself, your son, your daughter, your servants, the Levites, the leaders that are exhausted, the sojourner, the fatherless, the widow, who are within your towns, make sure they rejoice. For 7 days you shall keep the feast to the Lord your God at the place the Lord will choose, because the Lord your God will bless you in all your produce and in the work of your hands, so that you will be, underline it, altogether joyful. You're going to bring these things in. You're going to feast on them. You're going to get the splendid fruit from the splendid trees. You're going to bring all those sacrifices, and you guys are going to feast, and you're going to eat, and you're going to share all this food, and you're going to go to bed bloated and tired, just like you probably will this week. And you better be altogether joyful.
That is the command in the Festival of Booths. Now, again, let's make sure that we're clear on this. This is not a command to celebrate Christmas. The point is singular. If you are going to do it, we have permission to enjoy it. Furthermore, we also see in the Festival of Booths, if you are going to celebrate, it also included a little something that if you happen to be a workaholic might cause you to go, you know what, this Christmas, I'm actually going to take off some time.
If you crack that laptop open and start reading your work emails, unless you're a Levite, right, running part of this thing. I'm stretching these illustrations way too far.
Okay, remember, he's talking about the Festival of Booths. You rest. First day you rest, last day you rest. Stop it. Stop your working, unless you are a Levite who has to throw this celebration. You need to slow down and take a break.
Right? Put it down. Have some time away from your ordinary work. Now, thankfully, our culture still cooperates with us. Most of you get some extra time. Smile at me if you get a little extra time off this week that you didn't get last week. Is that right? So, can you, with that time, recognize a couple things? You're breaking from ordinary work, however much time you get off, breaking from ordinary work, and even this, let me go a step further, because the word rest means rest. You ought to rest. Oh, I don't understand. You just talked about tiring, expensive, and fattening things I got to do this week. And now you're telling me to rest. I am saying this. It's hard for us to celebrate and to have joy in celebration if what we're doing does not involve some rest.
So you have permission to take a little break from what you normally do. Do you plan on doing that for Christmas? Now, here's what we've heard in a thoughtful sermon from Mike Fabarez. If you do not like Christmas because it's man-made, you have permission. If you don't like it because it's too commercial, let the world do what they do. It has nothing to do with the celebration of the incarnation of Jesus Christ. Third, you don't feel like it. If you're going to celebrate, you're going to celebrate. You're going to even rest as a part of it. Now, how does that distinguish our Christian celebration from the world celebration? So how, if we are going to do a celebration of the birth of Jesus Christ, how do we do that and have it not just be some whoop-de-doo fest like the world?
Have your party. Have a celebration. Bake your cookies and cook your stuff. But here's the thing. You need to have a disciplined mind that comes back and periodically recognizes, I'm doing this in honor of the great thing that happened 2,000 years ago. Before the Lord and to the Lord. And the way to make that tangible is to actually do the thing that everything that we think of theologically is about, and that is we thank the Lord, right? That's the point. Just like coming out of Egypt. It wasn't we sit here and think, it was amazing that Moses was such a fantastic leader to get us out of slavery. No, it was God who did this. And God so loved the world that he sent his only son. Whoever believes in him should not perish, have everlasting life. We're celebrating the everlasting life that was accomplished by the incarnation. Right? Wouldn't have happened. Life, death, burial, resurrection of Christ would not have happened without the incarnation. So we celebrate that by doing it before the Lord and to the Lord, and that means we're thankful through the process. Let that be the punctuated reality of your Christmas celebration.
So, you're going to celebrate Christmas this year? You now have permission We just need to do it Christianly, not as the pagans do.
To be a part of every theological commemoration of whatever God does. Say thank you. Make the connection. The world doesn't get that. They exchange gifts. They have parties. They bake cookies. They put on their nice sweaters. They do all of that, and they never thank God. For what? They don't even know. They're just going through a cultural practice. Nothing wrong with the cultural practice. Stop reading and sending me those articles about ditching all of that. Unless it's antithetical to Christ, then don't send me those articles. You just need to look at these practices and say, I want to be thankful in them. Just like the Bible says, you sanctify everything, the Bible says, by prayer and thanksgiving. It says you can even eat and drink to the glory of God. And the Bible doesn't mandate me having lunch today, right? That's just the stuff we do. But you can glorify God in that. How does the Bible say you do that? Paul said to Timothy, with prayer and thanksgiving.
So, Merry Christmas. This is Wretched Radio. Don't forget, if you would like to hear the entire daily broadcast, simply visit wretched.org, go to iTunes, figure out your favorite Android listening platform, and you can listen to the entire program every single day, downloaded to your listening device for free. Well, thanks to our monthly supporters called the Gospel Partners. If you'd like to partner with us, we'd be very, very grateful. Simply visit wretched.org.